Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about space news 16/9/2022. So let's dive right into it. Now, first, something recent that happened is Blue Origin. Now, Blue Origin was doing a uncrewed commercial payload flight that was number 23, and either consider their luck or divine intervention that something bad happened in this mission where there was nobody involved. Be mindful, before this there were people involved. So at t plus 1 minute 4 second, basically something off happened, and that triggered basically capsule separation with abort system. Now be mindful, these things happen so quickly that computers take over. It's not something that's like, oh, I think rocket is going off first, let me trigger it. No, it's like something off, little bit of a deviation. Of course there is a what you call corridor vector there. It's like, okay, I think this is still manageable, because again, if you make the corridor vector too tight, it's going to trigger basically this sort of system too quickly. So there is some vector there, but again, the moment it crosses that, it's like, nope, thrust starter of the main system is not good enough, and it started to deviate. Like you can see there's like little bit there. It's like, nope, the capsule just went nope out of there. That's really good. Now capsule landed very safely, that you can see. That's awesome, that's GG. And booster crashed. Now this is a good thing, because if booster would have went boom, that would have created a serious issue, because again, engine failure is one thing, but if you have an overpressure event where it triggers this sort of detonation, that's a serious issue, because that means even let's say the moment detection system detected, okay, something is off, let me detach, it detonates, then it can cause damage to the capsule. So you always want crash rather than detonation. So that was also achieved. So all things considered, okay. Now FAA has launched an investigation. That's what's their job. They will do it. And when I'm making this video, no big thing has come out yet. Now here's the deal. It's just like people are exaggerating. It's like Blue Origin this and that, and it's like, it's gonna end up Blue Origin and all that. No. It's not a big deal. Why? Well, again, the system was built there for this exact reason, and it did work. And not to mention, you may like, okay, that should not happen. Again, Soyuz MS-10 also experienced the same thing. Something bad did happen, and they had to be detached. They had to use emergency escape system. It's a normal thing in a rocket. Again, ideally, you would want them to happen very rarely, but it will happen. Like for example, thousands of planes take off every day. But here's the deal. Some plane will have to deal with a rough landing, or sometimes they have to deal with some crash. Hopefully, very low casualties, but it will happen. It's not a question of if, question of when. Now, when that time happens, if you have a good system that has proven itself, it's like, bro, I got this, I got your back. Like this, everybody's like, okay, now people are really, old people are going there, they may not be able to survive 10G shock that it created, upwards of 10G. But here's it, that's up to you. You are going on a thrill ride, you have to understand it. It's a thrill ride. And not to mention, like, there are, like, people going there are not idiots. They know enough. They know enough that they are strapped on top of a rocket. It's not a child's straw. It's a rocket. It can go boom. It has enough oomph that if it really goes boom and is fully fueled, escape system will barely able to do anything. That's why I specified detonation on a very high level would be really bad, which did not happen. Malfunction, that's okay. That's like, I would have preferred not happen, but if that happened, okay. So it's not a very big deal, and I'm reasonably sure FAA will figure it out. And after that investigation, that will make Blue Origin even better, because if you look at whole Blue Origin's history, they are really good at it. Meaning they had a few failures in very early on, and after multiple test flights, they did not have any issue. This is like, almost people have forgotten that Blue Origin is a new company. People are like, SpaceX is this, is that. Like, again, they also used to blow up. Like, there are many missions where they poof, and I'm not talking about landing, just going up, they went boom. So it's a normal thing. Relax. So let's talk about the boring topic, SLS, and it's forcing even more delays. What a surprise. You have to understand, at this point in time, this rocket is in a very bad space, like really bad space. And they are trying a very risky gamble. They are trying to fix it in bad. The recent analysis is that this joint where they are feeding the hydrogen, that's where it's leaking. So that's why they erected a tent there and trying to patch it on site, basically on the launch pad itself. And why such a big deal? A rocket is in unsafe mode. What does that mean? That simply means this rocket is not designed a reusable system. These are more close to F1 engines, not to your main daily driver engines. Daily driver engines are built differently. They are designed to be like, I can take a beating. I can take a beating for 10 years. I can take a beating for 30 years. When you take a F1 engine, it's like, bro, one race, poof, your engine block, poof. Or like dragster system, poof. Like there's a different design philosophy. This is not a reusable rocket. So inherently, every aspect of this is designed to be, let's say it needs to be X strong. It's barely 1.6x better. It's like barely. When you are talking about something that's reusable, like for example, Falcon 9 is designed, is like it needs 1x. It's like, how about we make the core much more oomph, much more strength. So then you will be like, okay, core needs to be, 1x. How about we make it 6x? Again, so it can withstand landing pressure. And then they will do experiments like, hey, I think landing legs are not managing. Improve the crush core. Again, I think this part is not wearing down. Okay, that's why they had multiple upgrades. So basically, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, block 5. This puppy has nothing. It's designed to, is like, bro, make it, test it, launch it. The end. Don't talk more than that. But this puppy is so unfortunate. They are like fueling it, unfueling it, fueling it, unfueling it. Now that may not sound a big issue if you're dealing with petrol or kerosene or RP1. That's a very big issue if you're dealing with liquid hydrogen. That puppy puts too much thermal strain on, no matter which tank you have, it puts too much thermal strain. That inherently limits this tank to go through fueling and unfueling only like 5 to 7 times. This puppy has already reached the red limit, meaning at this point in time, the manufacturers is like, I don't think I want to certify this, meaning the manufacturer is like, bro, you exceeded the safe limit. So if it goes bad, company will not be responsible. Same goes for the solid boosters. Again, companies who are building this, who are certifying it, they know for a fact that there could be launch delays, there could be weather events, there could be things that are outside of our control. So they're like, okay, we know this for a fact. Let's say you are asking us for a product delivery on November and your launch supposed to be in November. They will build it in such a way, hey, till February, I think you should have, but please, for the love of God and what is safe, launch before February, like best before sort of scenario. So this rocket has reached its red line where almost every system, be it solid boosters, be it the core, be it, I don't even know, every other nut bolt, has reached a point. And that's why they do not want to like shake it again, going through a vehicle bending and coming in and out. Even though the crawlers are very stable, they're still moving things around. And this is huge and not built for that. It's like if there was a built like space shuttle can endure it. Why? It was designed for that. It was like, I got this. Because again, it's supposed to go through in and out, again and again. So they designed it that way. This is very unsafe. And one of the hilarious part that is unsafe right now is self-destruct. Now, what does that mean? That simply means self-destruct has a battery system. It's completely battery power. Again, it does study the rocket main power bus for anomalies and all that jazz. But if it's triggered externally, you want the power source that is working on that to be absolutely reliable. So it has its own battery. Now, again, the quality of components used in these things are amazing. So if the battery is supposed to last 2 months, again, given the certification, they will build it so well that it will like, bro, this puppy is good for 7 to 8 months. Now, NASA is trying to get the approval at this point in time. There are, again, NASA is government organization. They cannot just do lol. So they're trying to seek approval, but again, the battery is now out of life, meaning they're like, bro, remove that self-destruct system, put a new battery in. Problem, you have to put it back into the vehicle assembly building. That itself may destroy this rocket. So, and again, everybody at this point in time, when I'm making this video, is like absolutely sure that if they do that, they may have to unstack the solid boosters. Really not good or cost effective or efficient in terms of time. So it's very, very unsafe scenario. Moving the rocket is too unsafe, it's too old. And here's the deal, all options that NASA can take at this point in time, all are bad. Meaning if they launch it and it goes through Max-U and falls apart, bad. Every option that this puppy has now is bad. Like this should not have fallen out that badly. Basically, even your solid boosters manufacturers are like, bro, it's lol now. It's like, it's lol now. Self-destruct batteries are like, bro, I'm out. It's like, that's really, really bad. So let's see what happens. Like that was the most ironic thing, that this was just scrapped, because again, companies is like, every company that is responsible, they're like, dude, I'm out. I will not certify it. And again, if they notice cracks or more leaks and things of that nature, they have to realize it's like the structure may be compromised. So we come to something more upbeating, SpaceX. SpaceX in Starship 24 upper stage was tested fully with all its 6 big boys, and basically 3 vacuum engines and 3 surface level engines, and they worked. Everything worked. It was like full thrust sort of output system, and again, only for 6 to 8 seconds, everything worked. But it did cause a fire. Now that is an issue, because again, this, you can see that bushfire literally became a seriously big bushfire. It took a very large area of land, but thankfully no property damage. So that's a good thing. But here's the deal, that creates the issue, because this area is what we call protected area. Just setting it on fire is not acceptable. It's not a rocket launch site. It's SpaceX trying to make it a rocket launch site. So right now there are like some competing interests. Like some people want them to be gone. So setting things on fire is not good. So at this point in time, for cost reason, they are not trying to add a water deluge system, but more and more people are like, dude, you have to add water suppression system, and your heat shield tiles are still falling apart. And at this point in time, because again they went through Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4, and they are still having issues with heat shields, it's like more and more people are thinking it may be because you are exceeding its load when you are firing engines this close to the ground and without any suppression system. There is a reason why every other rockets have suppression. Like they thought like making a tall tower will allow them to like bypass it, but apparently not. So let's see what happens. And there are some rumors, I cannot confirm it or deny it, there are some rumors is that they are maybe working on disposable Starship. I'll explain why that becomes more important, because again, they are not stupid enough. They are like, dude, if we launch this, we're not going to capture this. They know that for a fact. And you might be like, wouldn't it still be viable to launch it and gather as much data as possible? Again, that has a penalty of time, meaning if you can launch 3 disposable rockets in the time span of 1 disposable rocket, which acts hopefully will give you useful data, you may choose 3 rockets, because again, be mindful, every aspect of the system is untested. So 3 launch is far more preferred than 1 delayed launch. Then we come to Sierra Space. They are working in the background slowly, and they got a vote of confidence from NASA. NASA is flat out like, okay, we got this. We're gonna use orbital reef after ISS. ISS has reached a point where it's like, again, it's falling apart. It's the first thing I ever know that where the solar cells literally degraded. It's like, bro, solar cells are like, I can't do this anymore, man. Been doing this for too long. I'm out. Solar cells are out. And again, the structures are going through so much heating and cooling. I'm like, wait a minute, how the heck it's heating? Again, sunlight, heating. Shadow of the earth, cooling. Heating, cooling. Heating, cooling. Multiple times a day. So that's fatiguing the structure too much. So fundamentally, ISS is like almost retired. They are just brute forcing it. And the current conflict with Russia is really not helping. So they have to find something. And orbital reef is in a position where they're like, there is some serious potential here. Now, they did a destructive test to prove strength of this sort of inflatable modules. And while NASA did do testing in like actual ISS, they had an inflatable module, they're still not that confident to make it as a core. Like, it's a storage or something, some experiment, like to put people in there, is they're having like, bit of second. Again, it's a kind of understandable because it's a serious thing. So they're like, here's deal. We're going to do a destructive test on this. Basically this. Boom. Now, this destructive testing was done because, again, all these structures that are in space, they are not built like a submarine. They are built like a, Coke can. So they have a pressure rating, meaning if the inside is supposed to be 10 psi or 15 psi, that's good. That's like, we got this. We can handle it 24/7. But again, if you have a fire where solid is converted into gas and a lot of psi starts to build up, your structure should not just go poof. So there is some structural strength left there. Like there is a requirement in the spec sheet that you must be able to withstand 120 psi, for example, without self-destruction, without any permanent damage to it. This puppy crossed that threshold with a wide enough margin where they're like, dude, we're still good. We're good. We're good. Meaning, if you have any serious fire incident, a lot of overpressure buildup, it should still survive. And destructive testing, they're like, dude, it should cross here. It crossed here. So that earns a lot of confidence, because here's the deal. You can do all computer simulation all day long. You can have like small scale testing, but destructive testing is one of those things that if you do that, that's like, no, now we can trust it. So Vactrain that they are building, the material name is Vactrain. Vactrain inflatable works as expected. And again, I have provided the video down below. They saw that it did not broke apart at the seam. The seam was that strong. So it's really good sorted. And they're flat out, their conversation with the people is like, we want to compete with SpaceX. They're like, would you launch it on top of SpaceX? It's like, again, if we have no other option, of course. But like, that's not end game. End game is that we're going to compete with SpaceX with our Dream Chaser. And they were very clear about it. We're not going to block SpaceX. For example, let's say they build orbital reef. Let's say things work out and SpaceX wants to send their astronauts to here. Awesome, no problem. They're like, bro, come on in. Don't worry about it. Of course, pay for it, but don't worry about it. It's like they have international docking adapter and they do not have any qualms like, oh, you are a competitor. No, it's like everything is competitor. But they inherently, from day one, is like, no, we want to rely on our craft. That also, from a economic point of view, gives you redundancy. That really gives you confidence. Confidence gives you higher stock value. So that's a good approach. Then we come to the current mania that is going around the world, satellite to mobile phone. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is trying to do this at this point in time. And iPhone uses global sat to send SOS. Let me be very clear, it only allows you to send SOS. It may be able to expand it in the future, but you may not want to do that. And it will take around it will take a long time. Again, if everything is lined up perfectly, the satellite is just right up where your mobile is, weather is stable enough, everything is awesome, you may be able to send very quickly. But it is a SOS, so worst case scenario is specified, that's 15 minutes. It should take around under 15 minutes, it should be able to transmit message, but the coverage should be 100% of USA. So that's the global side, and that's why the moment you trigger the satellite connectivity is like, are you in danger, like are you lost, are you in fire, or like, again, they will have step by step guide, because if they want to use that satellite backbone, they want to be efficient with it, and it will not work anywhere else other than USA, simply because Global Star does not have license to operate in other countries. If they have license with that, Apple may able to, like, let's say, negotiate with some European Union nations to deal with this. Let's see. Then we come to another I'm saying company, SpaceX and T-Mobile, and they are like partnership for low bandwidth communication. Let me be very clear. This is SOS. iPhone is just SOS. This puppy is low bandwidth communication, meaning they are selling 5 Mbps per cell. But be mindful, if you are in a remote area, there is a good chance there would be more than one mobile phone in that area. So those cells will be divided. Let's say 1 Mbps. Let's say 1 Mbps, still good enough. Let's say 1 Mbps, it's connected all the time, no matter where you're driving in middle of nowhere. That's good, and that's much better than iPhone system. But okay, it's a T-Mobile initiative. Now, SpaceX cannot do this at this point in time because their satellites, again, they could force it, they could try to write the software firmware and all that. It will barely able to do it, and it will piss off the people who actually have the big dishy. So what they need is what we call version 2 satellites. Those are big boys, meaning big solar panel, meaning lot of oomph for amplifiers and low noise amplifiers, basically for amplifiers for transmitting and low noise amplifiers for receiving. They need a lot of energy to do that. So version 2 is needed. Now, at this point in time, version 2 is far out, and T-Mobile created a deal with them where it's like, dude, your big satellites, big satellite itself is a gamble that is on top of a gamble of starships working properly. So these are two gamble on top of each other. We do not like that. So you have to give us a compromise. The compromise is there is a V2 mini under construction at this point in time, that if, again, whatever the timeline they have discussed is like, if at that point in time they fail to launch V2 major satellites, they will have to switch to V2 mini satellite, which can be launched on top of Falcon 9. Now, I think that's why SpaceX is maybe moving towards just launching a damn thing. Even if it's a disposable rocket, they may be just like, let us get V2 on orbit. Again, from testing point of view, that's also desirable. If they can get that, then only this T-Mobile partnership will work. Otherwise, it will become a hamper for them. So that's the second company. Let's talk about third company, which you may have noticed, Blue Walker 3. It's from AST SpaceMobiles. Now, this company launched using SpaceX, and they launched this puppy. And you're like, wait a minute, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge. That's really huge. And the only interesting aspect of it is they are focusing on one thing. This is a flying cell tower. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just like the center area that you're seeing a blank has antennas like this. Those antennas are directly connected to ground stations, and they are transmitting it. Now, these things are connected to mobile phones, and they are basically phase shift array system, exactly used to like Falcon 9, I'm saying basically SpaceX Starlink satellites. This is just lot of it. It's like a lot. Like, again, you can see that it's huge. It's like huge. I'm genuinely surprised how many units. Each unit can handle hundreds of connections. So it's like a very large throughput. And the idea behind this is like the back side of this is just solar panel, front side is phase shift array system, and the central link is the comm links. So it's just a repeater in space, and it should give you a very large coverage in low Earth orbit, and it should work on any mobile phone. It's like, of course, you will have SIM communication and all that, just because, again, the data is routed to the ground loop. So let's say in case of India, Airtel may talk with them, Jio may talk with them, so you can have connection. This, in principle, should give bit better throughput, much higher speed compared to Starlink. Why? Starlink is focused on the dishy system. This puppy is focused on mobile directly, and not to mention the number of antennas here is huge. And this is what they call, I think this they will go in the market with this, because again, this was launched. Right now it's in trial testing phase, as in like in space trial phase, and their aims are very big, very bold, and it should work. It should work. That's the whole point. At the end of the day, it's all about numbers. It's like how many receivers you have on the space. Some company was like, I have 16 receiver per satellite. This is like, yeah, we have 128 receiver per satellites. You get that point. So a lot of interest in satellite to mobile phone, and I'm reasonably sure in next 10 years, every one of us may just like, yeah, I have satellite in phone. Yeah, no big deal. A common thing, who cares? Of course, I'm not sure that we will be able to do voice calls. Maybe this can, but let's see what happens. So this was my presentation on the news that are happening around us. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.